Welcome back to Rules of Engagement. We just talked about a couple replays the community sent me today. A lot of them were kind of some basic games, but I think they were still useful for the majority of you guys. Remember, if you want your games to be viewed over every Thursday, go ahead and submit them to majorleaguegaming.com/replays. Be looking at HOTS replays from now on out, so feel free to send me all those Heart of the Storm replays you have. I got a couple. I got actually a cool one from Batman he sent me last night, so that was going to be fun to watch them all. The real Batman, too. That's right. He exists. But anyways, let's take a look at a couple of these questions right here. We got one from Alex Zavorgan. Hope I'm pronouncing it right. And it says, I can't do anything but super standard. How do I get better at improv in the game? I just freeze up when the game is not standard. So, the most important thing... Actually, I got to start with a funny story. So, I used to play Warcraft 3 pretty seriously. I competed in tournaments, and I'd often beat the world-class Korean players, even though I wasn't at their level. Like, I'd play against other American players, and I'd lose. And then I'd play against, like, the world-class Koreans, and I would actually beat them very, very frequently. And the secret was I do something non-standard, and all they had to do was not see, like, pretend I'm just doing something normal. And the reason standard player is standard is because it's good versus everything. So if I did my non-standard thing and they just kept doing their standard thing, they would have won the game. But they scout me, and they're like, oh, he's doing this. I should counter it by doing this. And of course, you know, their counter is actually exactly the worst thing to do when I win the game because they reacted in a poor way. So the best way to react to someone doing something crazy to you, something non-standard, is just pretend you didn't see it. Just keep doing your standard play. Your play's standard for a reason, right? It's because it's a tried and true, like, close as we think to Nash equilibrium. Well, I mean, there's mixed Nash equilibriums, but we're going to say it's just a static one. Close as you can get to, like, a one-strategy Nash equilibrium type thing. And that's why it's standard play. So, there are a few exceptions. Like, your opponent is going pure air. Don't get units that can't attack air. But that's all. That's all you have to do is change your build just by that. Just make sure units can attack the units. Stick with your standard play, and you'll do well. And after doing that for a while, you'll actually notice that you'll probably win most of the time for those non-standard plays. Occasionally, there'll be something that does require a little bit of a reaction to. But those are few and far enough between that I wouldn't worry about those too much. Wait until you lose to the same build like 10 times in a row. Then make sure it wasn't, then you know it wasn't like you were doing some horrible mechanical mistake, most likely. If you lost 10 times in a row to the same build, it's probably because you weren't reacting correctly. And then go ahead and grab that replay. Go to majorleaguegaming.com/replay, send it to me, and I'll help you out there. Or just go do it yourself and see what you can figure out. You know, were you keeping up a macro, first of all? Was you keeping up an army strength? Was your tech and upgrades at the right level? If all those three things are fine, it's probably army composition was a little bit wrong. Or maybe you weren't dealing with some funky harass well enough. But bottom line is, just keep doing your standard play. Pretend you didn't see whatever you saw. Jump over to the next question. It's going to be from Tiago Carvalho. What do you think is the most revolutionary update comparing Wings of Liberty to Heart of the Storm? So I'm going to give you one for each race. With Protoss, by far, it's the Mothership Core's recall ability. It allows you to be aggressive without... Like, normally Protoss, if they move on the map, they have to have a stronger army than their opponent because they're slower units, so their opponent can pick a fight. So because they're slower, they can't back away from engagement, which means they have to be stronger. The new Mothership Core recall allows you to move out with weak forces and recall away. It's very, very huge impact into how you can play Protoss in Heart of the Storm. For Terran, it's got to be... Oh, Terran has so many new strong things. Widow Mines, I'd have to say, Widow Mines are incredibly strong. You can use them defensively, offensively, drop, harass, rush, support tanks, support bio. They're great no matter what you're doing. For Zerg, I don't know. Yeah, maybe Vipers. No. The Hydra has changed. No, not really. Ultra has changed. Ultra changed for Zerg is the biggest one. Ultras are much, much, much stronger now. You can use them almost regardless of what your opponent does, unless they mass air. Of course, can't go pure Ultras, but they're great mixing in a composition now. Last question, again from Alex Zavorgan. Is there a Zerg build that always works decently, Protoss versus Zerg? Or Protoss, PV. Zerg? I actually don't, like one Rax, Fast Expo, Intermarine Tank, but for Zerg. Oh, okay, so this is like Zerg versus X, not PVX. So if you're Zerg and you want a build that works decently versus like everybody, what's your good Zerg build? So hatchery first, followed by spawning pool, followed by gas. You get speedling, and then you can branch out to a couple options from there. It's kind of like Protoss, one gate expand, add 2 more gates robo, get observer, branch out from there. So hatchery first, spawning pool, gas, get speed, and from there you can keep teching, you can pull your guys off gas, take a 3rd base. You got plenty of options, but those 3 things. Hatchery first, 16 hatchery, 15 spawning pool, let's do 17 gas, let's say that. It's a pretty averaged out build. You get speedings and a lot of economy already. That'll work in pretty much every matchup on every map at a fairly decent level. So thank you guys for watching the Rules of Engagement Community Critique. We'll be back again tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern with some Heart of Storm content. I think it'll hopefully be the Demaga vs. Pult match. We can get that set up. If not, it'll be some King of the Hill. And then at 7 p.m. Eastern, it's going to be the next episode of Rules of Engagement. It's going to be self-reflection, where I take a look at some of my own games, analyze the tactics I use, and how I can basically improve on that. If you don't want to wait until tomorrow from 5 to basically 8 to get your MLG Starcraft 2 fix, go to youtube.com/official MLG Starcraft 2. Catch up on some old videos. There's a lot of great ones in there. See you guys tomorrow.